Bad investment moves are not isolated to one decade of our lives. Often we keep making money mistakes that change as our relationship to money changes. Joining us now to help us identify the biggest mistakes we make decade by decade is WSJ reporter Charlie Wells in London. Hi, Charlie. Welcome. So great to see you.
Great to be here.
So, Charlie, we don't necessarily get better about money as we age. We just make different mistakes.
Right. The research is finally starting to catch up to something that we've known for a long time, which is that people who are 20 are very different to people who are 60. And of course, they make very different financial mistakes throughout those different decades of their lives. Sort of plain vanilla.
It's such bad news because you think you're going to get better, but actually you just make different mistakes. All right, so let's start with our 20s. What is it that most people are doing wrong here?
Well, today's crop of 20-somethings who are largely in the millennial generation seem to be scarred by certain financial events that have happened over the course of their lives. 9/11, of course, the great financial crisis. And so millennials seem to be avoiding risky investments that they actually sort of need at this phase of their lives. People in their 20s can sort of afford to take on greater risk to potentially get greater returns. But one study actually found that a number of millennials are actually taking on retirement portfolios that look a lot more appropriate for people who are nearing retirement as opposed to being in their 20s.
So they're a little scared of the stock market.
Yeah, that's right.
Interesting. All right. So now what about the 30s? This is when a lot of people are hit all at once with marriage and kids, a little 1-2 punch as people do all this stuff later. Right, Charlie?
Right. Life really starts to get in the way and people forget to make the appropriate financial adjustments. They may actually be making more money than they were in the past. There's another issue in the 30s which is called lifestyle creep. So people actually want to lead the lifestyles that their parents led when they left home, but they forget that it took their parents a really long time to get to that point. So people in their 30s spend a little bit too much, maybe don't save enough, and could potentially end up with a lot of debt.
I think it's interesting that you point out they spend too much on housing, right?
Yeah, there's this idea that real estate is sort of, a safe investment, but you can actually spend too much on too much house.
That happens here in New York all the time, not even house, but apartment. All right, so now moving on to the 40s. You would think by now people would be able to say, okay, I've got this. But for many, what mistake are they facing?
Well, they end up putting themselves in sort of a sandwich position. So there's new research that shows that people actually are contributing a lot of time and money by giving it to their children and also their aging parents. And this is a demographic issue because, of course, people are sort of having children later, so they might have young kids in the home, or they might have even adult children who are still at home. Yet at the same time, their parents are getting older and need more care and, of course, more financial assistance. And the real mistake here is when people start withdrawing from their retirement savings in order to feed the sandwich.
I see. So they're trying to pay for college, they're trying to support aging parents, and they're taking out of retirement. Bad news, because then you look ahead to your 50s and what's going on here if you aren't properly prepared.
The nightmare scenario, I think one that's probably the scariest, is reaching your 50s, waking up and feeling like you don't have enough money to last through retirement. And of course, again, another demographic thing, we're living a lot longer. Retirement is much longer than it was in the past. And some people in their 50s feel like maybe they need to catch up. They take on risky investments to get high returns. Maybe they feel like they need to start their own businesses in order to bring on more cash, but that is also risky in and of itself. But there is hope here, according to Alicia Munell, who is a retirement researcher at Boston College. And what she says is that people in their 50s who are feeling this cash crunch should potentially wait until they are 72 to withdraw Social Security as opposed to 60. Your monthly benefits can actually go up as much as 76%.
All right, so hold off on Social Security. Now, then we're in the 60s. So we should be in our golden years, Charlie, enjoying retirement. And this is where it gets really scary because you say some studies show that a person's peak financial decision-making years are around 53 and go downhill from there?
Right. Right. I mean, in the medical world, we've been talking a lot about cognitive decline. We hear a lot about dementia in the headlines, and financial advisors are finally starting to incorporate some of that research into their own research and are essentially telling people, you're going to get into your 60s, 70s, 80s, even beyond, and your ability to make decisions is going to decline. Before that happens, delegate to a trusted family member, a trusted advisor, who, as these things unfortunately start to creep in, they'll be able to take care of you.
So should we be worried that our own parents are not making wise financial decisions for themselves?
What a number of financial experts I talked to said was essentially have this difficult conversation with your parents as early as you can. Keep it sort of a business conversation. Try not to let emotions enter the fray, and make sure you've got things written down.
All very sobering thoughts. Thank you for that, Charlie Wells.